Dr. Desmet, from the point of view of your research, why do you think that despite the many contradictions that emerged with regard to the so-called protective measures adopted during the COVID-19 pandemic, why do you think that many didn't really question these measures and sort of accepted government directives without looking into the pros and cons of restrictions such as lockdowns and social distancing and mask wearing?
Transformation makes people blind. It makes them incapable to take a critical distance, to consider what they believe in a critical way. For the reasons I just mentioned, it leads to this narrowing of the field of attention. It makes that all the psychological energy is attached to a very small set of mental representations, for instance, the virus, the corona measures. Even if 1,000 people die to save one patient from dying of corona, these 1,000 people who die from suicide and all kinds of collateral damage of the measures, these 1,000 people will not have the impact this one person dying from corona has, because all the psychological energy is attached to the victims of corona, and also for several reasons. Also because, as I said, the measures function as a ritual, and the rituals exactly have this function, that they are pragmatically meaningless, and they through participating in a ritual, an individual sacrifices a part of what is important to himself under certain conditions. His own children, for instance, that happened all the time in history, sacrifices something that is very important for himself just to show that the collective, the group, is more important than itself. So that's a few reasons why people start to become completely blind in the process of mass formation. It's just, yeah, look at the process of hypnosis. And when people are under hypnosis, they really are not aware of reality anymore. Outside this narrow focus of attention, the hypnotist focused upon. So exactly the same happens in mass formation. And it explains indeed why people in one way or another were not capable of paying attention to what so many scientists said in the beginning of the crisis, namely that there would be more children dying from starvation in developing countries as a consequence of the lockdowns than there could ever die people from the virus, even if no measures were taken at all. So this disbalance, this lack, we never really saw in the mainstream media a proper cost-benefit analysis, for instance. We never really saw that. We never saw two graphs in which the one graph indicated the number of people that could die from corona, and then the number of people that could die from the corona measures. If we would have presented such a graph 2 or 3 days in a row on the mainstream media, the mass formation would have disappeared immediately, probably. Would have disappeared when it would have been shown in the mass media. But this doesn't happen because the mainstream media were also part of the mass formation, and sometimes were manipulated intentionally. But very often, many people in the mainstream media just were hypnotized as well. I met some of them, spoke to them. I saw what happened around me at university. Many extremely intelligent people were just in the grip of the process of mass formation. They were not capable anymore of seeing the most elementary statistical mistakes. I tried to show them very often, but in one way or another, it was baffling, mind-boggling to see that they time and time again managed to convince themselves that, well, if everybody says it, I should have been mistaken, and that, okay, these statistics seem to be wrong, but it couldn't be true, and they probably were right. Probably I overlooked something, and so on. So intelligence, for instance, doesn't play any role at all. Even the most intelligent people fall prey to the process of mass formation. And once you understand the process, you understand why that happens. Because it is as if the process of mass formation limits the information that is available in the system. You could perfectly compare it with a computer in which you can enter a certain part of information. So if the information is not in the computer, no matter how powerful the processor is, he won't be able to take into account information that is not into the system. And that's exactly what happens in a mass formation. Mass formation limits the availability of the information in a computer. So no matter how strong the computer is, it cannot work with information that is not in the system. And that's exactly why even the most intelligent people fall prey to it. Even more, the higher the level of education, the more vulnerable people are for mass formation. That is one reason. So the limited focus of attention, and also because the reason why people go along with the narrative, the reason why people stick to the narrative is not situated at the rational level. It's not because the narrative is right or correct. It's because the narrative leads to this new social bond. That's maybe the main reason, after all.